yeah, a little Secret Service reform is needed, and we're going to talk about that. Sunshine State psychosis report. Just remember, this is where Florida man or Florida woman is from. And picking voice actors, of which I know because I are one. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Good morning. Oh, my goodness. It's a Tuesday, isn't it? Yep, it's Tuesday. We are live on Rumble and YouTube. We're a podcast on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and all those favorite podcast platforms. You can find us there. And, of course, we are here live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., which is just about what it is now. Morning, Danny. Good to have you along for the ride. Hello there. All right, so we got a lot going on, not the least of which is, of course, this continuing saga of the Correspondents' Dinner assassination attempt and all the rhetoric and bullcrap we covered yesterday morning about that. But it has become very, very clear. Look, I love these guys and gals. They put their life on the line. They have a job that I could not do and most of us couldn't. But gonna call a spade, and when it becomes very clear the Secret Service has not exactly taken on the reforms that they need to in order to ensure the presidency's safety, I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about whoever comes next, whoever comes after that, and so on and so forth. But since Trump's return to office, they were supposed to have done a lot of fixes. Since the Butler mess, there were supposed to be fixes, and frankly, I don't think we're seeing them. First, of course, Butler, Pennsylvania, Palm Beach County twice now, and now Washington, D.C., where Americans witnessed yet another significant attempt on President Trump's life. During this past weekend, I'm sure that you know by now, but just in case, a lone gunman stormed past security with the alleged goal of killing Trump and other high-level members of his admin. He has been identified as a California resident, reported Democrat donor. The suspect bears all the hallmarks of someone indoctrinated by all the left's online disinformation ecosystem. Same ecosystem that regularly slanders Trump and his supporters, calls us Nazis, calls him Hitler, threats to democracy. Security is in quotations because it's very evident from the events collective attendees and their experiences that evening's defensive measures were not exactly up to the standards. Now, the Hilton is an enormous hotel. It is huge. There is normally about 4 layers or more of protection. You have the outer layer, which is level 4, which would be where the magnetometers are. Then you've got level 1, which is right up there close to the stage with Trump on it, and then 2 or 3 in between. So no chance in hell on earth this knucklehead idiot could ever have gotten even close. But the fact that he ran through the magnetometers and was only then stopped There's no checkpoints at the door at street level. It's a working open hotel. There are plenty of other guests there. News Nation's Katie Pavlik wrote on X, responding to a video of the suspect sprinting past security. She said this checkpoint was only 1 level up from the ballroom. The stairs down to the ballroom were yards away. Grateful for the rapid response, but the fact that anyone could get this far in the building was a serious problem. The hotel's venue, rather lackluster security, unfortunately, a detail the attempted assassin seemingly noticed in his anti-Trump manifesto before the attack. Commentators, not wrong in noting that the bravery of the individual Secret Service officers who very quickly engaged the assailant before he could harm the president and other targets. The entire episode, though, raises a very, very important point. The federal agency tasked with protecting the president, apparently they don't want to talk about it. That is, how this would-be assassin was allowed to get so close to the commander-in-chief at what should have been a highly secured event. The ballroom at the Hilton Hotel is not the place to hold this kind of an event and expect that kind of level of security. It ain't gonna happen. No matter how you dice it, it ain't gonna happen. Like I said, I think there was very little, if zero chance, this guy was going to get anywhere close to the actual entrance to that ballroom. He would have been stopped one way or the other. Now, to say the Secret Service got lucky, that nobody was killed, well, that's kind of an understatement, actually. What if the would-be assassin had been carrying a bomb? What if he'd been all strapped up? Some other explosive device. It detonated just outside the magnetometer. Might not have breached the ballroom, but it could have caused a huge mass casualty event and obviously utter chaos. The Secret Service's failures at the Washington Hilton very closely resemble that same level of negligence the agency displayed at the 2024 Butler, Pennsylvania rally. And there are still, to this day, questions about that one. Trump was a head turn away from not being here anymore. And a lot like this most recent incident, it was only after the attempt on Trump that these security breakdowns get actually acknowledged, which brings us to the chief problem at hand. It's becoming very obvious that the Secret Service has not taken on any of these structural reforms, which is needed to ensure the president's safety. Don't take my word for it. Award-winning journalist, Real Clear Politics political correspondent Susan Crabtree extensively reported on the agency's ineptitude and corruption during Trump 2.0. But rather than address the reported problems, the Secret Service leadership, it's the leadership, it always is, seems a lot more concerned with rooting out the officials who are actually sounding the alarm about the problems, which by any measure is not a good look. Trump White House has since come out, issued a statement, says they are standing by the leadership of the Secret Service, but that Chief of Staff Susie Wiles is nonetheless convening a meeting this week with the White House operations team, Secret Service, DHS leadership, and they're going to talk about protocol, practices for major events involving the president. Crabtree said, responding to that statement on X, that any admission by the White House that the Secret Service was not up to the task Saturday night would invite more perpetrators. Obviously, these idiots see this stuff and say, hey, I think I'll give it a try. Why not? She said the fact the admin has scheduled a meeting on the subject is rather significant, though. She's been overseeing the Secret Service, keeping Director Sean Curran in place in spite of multiple failures. The fact that she called a meeting to review Secret Service protocol is significant. Top White House staff know this type of porous White House Correspondents' Dinner, the security, like what they had, can never happen again if you want to avoid a major tragedy. We can only hope that Trump and his team will finally wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that systematic failures within the management and leadership of the Secret Service, very careful to point that out, and they need to act accordingly. Not just for their own protection, but for the safety of all Americans in the president and his official proximity. Because these idiots will not stop. They have been brainwashed to the nth degree. And they're going to continue to buy what the media is going to continue to feed them. And that is dangerous. Marilyn, good morning. The link above hopefully is of Melania Trump's. Yes, I saw that, speaking out against the lack of protection. And if y'all ever check out Julie Green's prophecies, you'll see that Susie Wiles is not a good person, been named several times as being a wolf in sheep's clothing. I know, but. Well, hopefully, like you said, we'll find out soon enough. This is a mess. This is a mess, folks. It needs to absolutely be dealt with. And from what I see, it ain't really being dealt with. Again, I want to stress on a leadership management level. The guys and gals digging in the dirt with a firearm on their hip, protecting the dignitaries, spot on. The rest of it, not so good. Now, Caroline Leavitt, who was supposed to be on maternity leave, instead, she brought a little fire to the White House briefing room. She wrapped up on Friday what was supposed to be her final press briefing, as she was scheduled to go on maternity leave. But after Saturday night's assassination attempt by the leftist nut job, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt felt Monday was too important a day to stay home, and so she did not. Be nice to rest up on the couch, get ready for her soon-to-be-born baby. But instead, she brought her usual fire and brimstone to the podium and blasted the left for their absolutely incendiary rhetoric, which is going to get someone killed, no doubt about it. Asked what the admin could do to bring down the temperature in this country, Leavitt brought out the receipts, quoting the inflammatory remarks made by folks like White House or House Minority Leader Hakeem Maxim Warfare Jeffries, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, the always hate-mongering Adam Shifty Schiff, and the self-infatuated governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. She didn't pull any punches, though. She calls them like she sees them.
In the rhetoric, you mentioned the First Lady and Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel's comments were, "Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow." And he said this days before the shooting, but there does seem to be a normalization of rhetoric about assassinating this particular president. How can this administration try to put an end to this?
Well, I think you heard it directly from the president on Saturday night, Aisha, that in his words, we need to recommit ourselves as a country to toning down the rhetoric and to unifying around what makes our country great. That's true of everyone who works in this White House, but as I said, it's also true of everyone who has a voice and a platform across this country, whether you're on television, a podcast host, people listen, and when you have mentally disturbed individuals across the country who are listening to this crazed rhetoric about the president day after day after day, it inspires them to do crazy things. And unfortunately, it's not just the media, it is the entire Democrat Party has made their pitch to voters across the country that Donald Trump poses an existential threat to democracy, that he is a fascist, and that they compare him to Hitler. I mean, these are despicable statements that the American people have been consuming for years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it.
Yeah, exactly. Mentally perturbed individuals, morons, retards, brainwashed fools. There's a left-wing cult of hate, she said, and boy, is she right. And it is an existential threat to this country. Give a listen.
Fueling this kind of violence, the left-wing cult of hatred against the president and all of those who support him and work for him has gotten multiple people hurt and killed, and it almost did so again this weekend. When you read the manifesto of this shooter, ask yourselves, how different is the rhetoric from this almost assassin than what you read on social media and hear in various forums every single day? The answer, if you're being honest with yourself, is that there is no difference at all. Much of the manifesto of the would-be assassin is indistinguishable from the words that we hear daily from so many.
Yes, precisely. She is calling it like she sees it because she is exactly right. She went on to blast Democrats for refusing to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, putting our nation, our duly elected commander-in-chief, in constant danger, praised the actions of the Secret Service, reminded all the TDS-riddled haters that agents are just brave people doing their job. She has repeatedly shown that she is extremely talented at her job. I like this lady a lot. She doesn't have to circle back like Jen Psaki, flip through endless notebooks like Karine Jean-Pierre. There's one we haven't said in a while. In order to tell her what to say, you ask her a question, you will instantly get a detailed answer with plenty of punch, and she's just damn good at it. Please take your maternity leave. You need the time. We wish you all the very best of luck, Madam Press Secretary. We will miss you in the meantime. Hurry back, but please take your maternity leave, okay? Chuck Todd, another knucklehead in the bunch, one of the worst, and he couldn't wait to go on a deranged skirt was too short rant after the shooting. It is literally pathetic, but not surprising, to see some of the Democrat media reactions in the aftermath of the shooting. What's made some of them especially disgusting was that they were written in the light of day on Sunday going into Monday, well after it was more than clear that the gunman's targets were, according to his deranged manifesto, officials in the Trump administration and President Trump himself. Example: Democrat House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who proclaimed he won't be lectured to about civility, even though prominent Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders are elevating America hating to a brand new level. Far-left podcaster Hassan Piker openly advocating political violence against the right. We told you the story about Francesca Hong, current Democrat frontrunner in the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. She took to X Sunday afternoon, write a thread about how violence was not the answer, and yet at the end of her post on X, she proceeded to rationalize the escalating violence against the right, in part because, you'll love this, the Trump administration was allegedly inflicting political violence itself on communities with the use of ICE agents to track down criminal illegal aliens. Yeah, she actually said that. And she's the front runner in Wisconsin. How nice. To further prove the point that the left and all their little ally buddies in the press are rapidly trying to shift the focus away from the fact that the alleged attempted assassin appears to be an extreme radical left-wing nut job, we have to turn no further than good old Chuck Todd. Chucky, former host of NBC's Meet the Press, now doing his own thing, but he hasn't changed, not a bit, in his role as top-shelf media apologist for the Democrats. Unbelievably, Todd told former CNNer Chris Cillizza in an interview he will no longer appear at any more Trump events. Why? He says he doesn't feel safe because chaos follows Trump. But it's not the left-wing radicals who want Trump dead who scare Todd. It's Trump himself. Because, well, according to Todd, the president brings it on himself. I didn't want to play this, but you need to know exactly how deranged this complete moron is.
I'm not going to any more events where Trump's at him. I don't feel safe. Wherever Donald Trump
Chaos
is,
follows him.
chaos follows him. And you are less safe, right? If you decide to go into his orbit, you have become less safe. He does not care about your safety. He's not going to protect you if you go into his orbit, because he's always going to protect himself first. He's more likely to throw you under the bus. He's more likely to have you be the target of Iranian assassins if you're John Bolton or Mike Pompeo. And he's going to pull any sort of federal support, right? You know, I think about when somebody using Donald Trump's words and actions targeted me and a bunch of other members of the press. You know who I didn't hear from?
Donald Trump.
Right. So the guy doesn't care when people commit violence in his name.
All right, Chuck, enough. It really takes a bit of chutzpah to turn an attempted assassination against President Trump into a skirt was too short rant, but also about how the real victims in all of this are not Trump and not his cabinet members, but the MSM. Just for grins and giggles, let's reflect on a few of the many instances where good old Chucky helped fan the flames and stoke the mobs against Trump. He suggested Trump is mentally unwell during a May 2025 debate with Piers Morgan. Todd also declaring April 2025 podcast, Trump was an authoritarian who was modeling himself after Putin. Podcast from 2 months ago, he point blank stated that there was echoes of 1930s Germany in Trump's second term. And there's more. I could go on. I think basically you get the point, which is that the real reason Chuck Todd does not want to appear at Trump events anymore is because he feels much more at home amongst his little Democrat allies, where the incendiary rhetoric that ends up inspiring Trump haters to make attempts on his life just echoes the exact hate that Todd himself spits out there. Don't go away, Chuck Todd. Just freaking go away. Seriously. It's not a good look, Chucky. Absolute idiot. Speaking of absolute idiots, I don't know if you've seen this yet or not. It's 13 seconds. It's very short. But this is our favorite representative, Ilhan Omar, explaining how World War XI happened. No, I'm serious. Listen.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
During World War XI. Now, you know what happened. It says World War II, which is, of course, World War II. This woman, who should not even be in this country unless she's in a jail cell or a prison cell, best yet simply deported back to her beloved Somalia. But she is stupid enough to think that World War II, II, means World War XI. And by the way, I checked, that is not AI. That is a legit video, not AI. Marilyn says, do you remember that sicko nurse that said such horrible things about the birth of her baby? Actually, no, I do not. Oh, yes, I do. That's right. I do remember that. Not the specifics, but I absolutely remember that story now. Yes, indeed. Wow. Well, apparently, students are a little brighter than we give them credit for. Because as of right now today, they are fleeing, running away from data science because they want to get an AI-proof education. A lot of people, myself among them, very concerned about the rise of artificial intelligence, AI. 2 of 4 kids are freelance graphic artists, and they are legitimately worried about their incomes getting yanked out from under them as people use AI for simple graphics, chores like designing logos, increasingly for more complicated work, graphics for television programs, websites. I don't know if you saw it. Can I actually play it? Let me see here. I gotta move it. Hold on. I gotta move it to the end. Okay, let me show you this. There you go. Watch this ending. I don't know. It's brand new. I just created this today, and I added it to our opening. This little explosion asteroid part. Watch. This part here. You see that? That is AI. I did that completely with artificial intelligence. It took me less than 30 minutes. And it's amazing, as you can see. Folks, the genie ain't going back in the bottle, so you had better get your kids prepared for dealing with AI. And the best way I can think of for them to deal with it, find another line of work. Honestly. These kinds of worries are increasingly spreading throughout the younger generation. Fortunately, they are smart enough to be waking up to that fact. And at least one report tells us that young college kids are seeking out AI-proof lines of study, which is brilliant. 2 years ago, Josephine Timperman arrived at college with a plan. She declared a major in business analytics, figured she'd learn niche skills that would stand out on her resume and help her land a good job after college. Well, the rise of AI has absolutely scrambled those calculations. The basic skills she was learning in things like statistical analysis, coding, AI can do in 30 seconds. Everyone has a fear that entry-level jobs will be taken by AI. And that's not wrong. A few weeks ago, she switched her major to marketing. New strategy is to use her undergraduate studies to build critical thinking and interpersonal skills where humans still have an edge. Well, let me tell you something, dear Ms. Timperman. That ain't true either. I created a marketing plan for one of the businesses that I work for this market that we're in, detailed use of social media, websites, and it was brilliant. It was about 4 or 5 pages long. It covered absolutely everything, laid out exactly the plans and how to go about it. We've already implemented some of them. And it's all done by AI after I got all the information together. And once I hit the send button, it replied in less than 2 minutes. Done. AI is going to be right there for your marketing skills too. Some of these young students were aware of the trends and they're trying to react. But there is another consideration that does not involve 6 figures of student debt, by the way. There is a possibility that the kids in this particular article I got the information from apparently have not considered, and it's a possibility they're not likely to be taken over by AI soon, and that is the trades. If they are eventually taken over, it's going to take a long leap forward before we get there. Unless there's some unbelievable improvement in robotics in the near future, and don't get me wrong, they are getting better. Professions like carpentry, plumbing, electrical work, they are all for a long time down the road going to be perfectly safe from artificial intelligence. Computer hooked up to your car, your truck might be able to run a diagnostic, tell you that your alternator is failing, but it can't actually go into the engine and replace the alternator. It can only tell you what the problem is. We still need a mechanic, a skilled mechanic, to go replace that alternator. All of this seems rather part and parcel of this notion that every kid should go to college, something I totally disagree with. Not only is that patently untrue, but a lot of kids, in fact, they should not go to college. It's caused our nation's young skills and young skulls to be full of nothing but mush. Neglect careers that are honest, honorable, lucrative. We need more welders. We need more mechanics, electricians, carpenters. And we always will. For the foreseeable future, we always will. And AI will not be taking those jobs, at least not anytime soon. That's for damn sure. So seriously consider whether you really need that college, that expensive, incredibly, unbelievably expensive college education. Where is it? Where'd you go? I promised you this story yesterday, and I didn't get to it. So I'm moving it up in the order because I don't want to miss it. It's the coolest story. By the way, all this happened before Saturday's shooting. The First Lady, Melania, is expanding the beehives at the White House. Now, color me stupid, but I didn't know we had beehives at the White House. Apparently, I was wrong. Friday, the Office of the First Lady announced an expansion of a beekeeping program at the White House, which was first launched by former First Lady Michelle Obama back in 2009. Yes, they have a bee program expected to increase annual honey production by an estimated 30 pounds, allowing for even greater use in preparing White House culinary dishes, serving as official gifts from the President and the First Lady, and supporting charitable donations of healthy foods to local food kitchens. This is brilliant. The statement says, First Lady Melania announced the expansion of the White House honey program with the addition of a newly installed, fully functioning beehive at the South Lawn. Handcrafted by a local artisan in the image of the White House, the beautiful new hive will add 2 new bee colonies to the existing 2 that already produce the signature White House honey. Again, color me stupid. I didn't know we had a White House honey, but that's very cool. The new hive expected to increase honey production by 30 pounds a year. The installation supporting the existing colonies and pollinating the nearby White House kitchen garden, flower cutting garden, and the vegetation on the National Mall. Also serves as an educational feature. This is so cool. The White House beehive. There is video. Hold on. You got to see, look at this beehive. This is so cool. Look at that. Nice. White House honey. Ha! Brilliant. She's expanding the White House beehives. I love that idea. That is so cool. All right, what else is going on? Oh, yeah, the Sunshine State. You know, the home of Florida Man and Florida Woman. Greetings from America's Psych Ward waiting room, also known as the 27th state, also known as Florida. In the midst of assassination attempts, war coverage, media distemper, general sense of national anxiety, it seems appropriate, in fact, it seems rather necessary to deliver a dose of mirth to the mayhem. Well, serving as a diversion of this collection of news items from the country's bastard stepchild, the one with a populace in a perpetual plight of pandemonium, what better way to feel better about things than to see what it is that we have to grapple with in the sunshine-heated tropics of Sub-Dixie? Maybe the AARP needs to offer a senior discount in anger management. This is Luis Aniceto Harado. There he is. A marathon man, and not the Dustin Hoffman kind, but a resident of the Florida Keys, where I lived for 5 years. He was arrested after a physical confrontation with Monroe County Sheriffs, the sheriff's department that I worked for 5 years. They were called out to a marina in the Florida Keys at 10:30 at night, where the 66-year-old Herrera had attacked a man who was staying on Herrera's boat after going at his floating tenant with a machete. He ended up striking the man with some other blunt object. Luis seems rather intent upon spending his golden years in chrome handcuffs, which he is now spending some of his golden years there. Previously picked up for striking a 78-year-old man with a 2x4. Not only was he arrested for aggravated battery, but the sexagenarian was also charged with elderly abuse. The magic to many a Florida man tale is in the layers, actually. Anyone else, man accused for starting a fire, is sufficient for a news item. Morgan Lentz picked up by the Jensen Beach police force for just such an offense. But how we got there is the story. Now, Captain Morgan had been at a local bar and apparently arrived with a milk jug filled with gasoline. There is our favorite Captain Morgan. Yeah. Real winner. He dumped the full fuel on a few cars and a motorcycle or two before the patrons ran him off before any ignition could take place. Couldn't get the matches or the lighter out. They called it in to 911. He trundled down the street, began starting fires in a nature preserve along a stretch of road using a tiki torch. Martin County Sheriff's able to pin him down, and given that he did fit the description of a guy with gasoline dressed as a pirate, that probably wasn't that difficult to do. Now, for a spell down in South Florida, there was a spate of Elvis Presley-level sightings. According to one social media outlet, the late Jeffrey Epstein appeared to be alive and very well, driving around in his luxury convertible. There was even video footage that proved the myth was true. But not so fast. Jeffrey Epstein went public after the video went viral and let it be known that he was not the famous pedophile, but is in fact Palm Beach Pete, a local tennis hobbyist. And as we come to learn, debunking his claim only means that Epstein's list adherents going to insist the admin is covering up for the fact that he is still alive. Here is Palm Beach Pete.
Hey everybody, this is Palm Beach Pete, and my video went viral because some dude randomly filmed me while I was driving on I-95, unbeknownst to me, and the next thing I know, I'm a viral sensation. I had my phone down for about 4 hours, and I didn't know my phone was blowing up with all these comments from that video.
Yeah. I mean, you can see where people would make the honest mistake. Not only does he look, but he actually sounds a lot like the scum of the earth, Epstein. Unbelievable. So just a few of the whack jobs who are gracing the Sunshine State. Unbelievable. All right. Voice acting, which is one of the things that I do for a living. I've been doing voiceovers for many, many years. In fact, if you look on Facebook, I have a page there called The Voice Guy. And you can see a lot of examples of my work there. It's a lot of fun. I've loved it. I did radio for 20 over years, went obviously into voice acting. However, not to be outdone, picking voice actors by race apparently is killing the rather beloved Avatar series. Nobody wants to watch their favorite characters given in even worse performances by unseen voice actors who may better physically resemble them, but don't sound like what we expect they're going to sound like. In Avatar, The Last Airbender, characters bent the elements of nature to their will. Well, in modern Hollywood, studios prefer to bend the races to fit their leftist ideology. When The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender, a sequel to the beloved 2005 series, set to release later this year, they announced several years ago that fans were initially overjoyed. It would be the first animated foray into the world of Avatar since the 2012's tepidly received Karen Legends of Korra. Early expectations were the original voice cast would return for this sequel series, which would preserve the original absolutely amazing performances. It was, if you've seen it, you know. Well, guess what? The core cast, all replaced. Sidelining the actors, who all still are in the industry. It wasn't pay disputes, scheduling conflicts. What was responsible for the changes was a deliberate shift towards race-based casting standards, including for those of voice actors. You know, the people whose faces you never see. During a Q&A session on Reddit, the film's casting director, Jenny Ju, claimed since the original show was released, there's been more emphasis in voice acting to match the actors' ethnic, racial backgrounds to the characters they're portraying. The emphasis Ju is referring to is entirely constructed by loud, out-of-touch leftists who have axes to grind or something to gain from restricting white actors from getting parts. Yes, I are one, but how about who's ever best at doing the job, regardless of what their race is? Korean-American voice actor Sun Wong-Chu, one of the most prominent advocates of this race-restrictive casting, he argues characters should be cast authentically, meaning actors should match the race of the roles they play. Yet, Chu's standards apparently apply only to other people, because Chu himself has voiced a huge range of non-Korean characters, including the Riddler in Batwheels, the Greek god Zeus in Apotheon, and the Norse character Ratatoskr in the God of War. Oh, and he wasn't alone in his hypocrisy. Consider the absolute bonkers decision to cast Black woman Caroline Henderson as a Viking warlord, or Jordan Peters as a gay Black disabled King Edward. Severus Snape may be explicitly described as white in Harry Potter, but that didn't stop HBO. They cast Black actor Papa Essiedu, causing a huge racial crisis. In a flashback, Harry's father, James, bullied Snape by hanging him from a tree, a moment which was meant to show James wasn't as noble as Harry initially believed. With a black actor cast as Snape, that scene inevitably looks exactly like a lynching. Sorry, but it do. Before this racial bullshit went on, fans didn't care who their favorite characters were voiced by, as long as they did a good job. Kratos, the protagonist of the God of War, been voiced by black actors since 2005. Performances hugely praised. They did an incredible, fantastic job. And now, no more. Strangely enough, and this is a part of my Voice Guy page, I am not a Venus flytrap. Is there sound? Oh, please tell me.
So settle back with a warm bowl of French fried flies and enjoy the coming carnage. Screams, my second favorite sound. My first being splat. Will I get a splat? Could I be that lucky? The yard can be a dangerous place, and those who explore it must keep this in mind. Never get in over your head. Is Zack seeing double? Has Gramps conjured his evil twin? Whichever it might be, the team may want to watch their backsides! Zack doesn't have enough height, so he falls from a much bigger height. It really is the height of irony!
I could not do that voice again in a million years, but I got to tell you, whoever wrote this, and I cannot remember the name of the writer, it is brilliant. In case you're wondering, yes, that is me. This is from a worldwide series called The Insectables. And the opening or the closing of every show, I think both, had this whack job of a Venus flytrap who would open and then close the show. And that was the guy. I can kind of still do the laugh, but I wouldn't last very long doing that voice. It took a lot to pull that off. But I'm telling you, I've been doing this for over 40 years, and that character was the most fun I have ever had voicing a character. And no, I don't have any Venus flytrap in me. So nowadays, I guess they'd have to look for an actual Venus flytrap to do the voice. Fools! Every one of them! All right. Hey, Danny says, what? I've seen the Charlie look-alike as well. He doesn't look like Charlie to me, but anything for a conspiracy theory. It's kind of what keeps us all going around here, I suppose. We are done. Yep. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. If you'd like to donate to help the show going, it's the top link in our description down below. Just pull that down. You'll see a PayPal link there. You can make a donation to the show in any amount. It's all appreciated. And, of course, all of our great sponsors, Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile, NordVPN, Ground News, they're all there, too. Get yourself a deal. We'll be back again tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of this odd little experiment here we call The Jay Sheldon Show.